Good morning. Welcome to the Public Works Committee meeting for August 21st. I'm going to call the meeting to order, see if there are any declarations of conflict. I'm not seeing any. Can I have someone move the approval of our agenda? Moved by His Worship, second by Councillor McAleer. Adoption of our minutes that are attached from July 17th. Moved by His Worship, seconded by Councillor Tweel. Okay, we can move right into reports and discussions this morning. The first one is the pavement condition index review. Business, sorry, excuse me, Your Worship. Business arising from previous minutes. Okay.
Okay, Madam Chair, just go to page 10 of our minutes. Street resurfacing. I just went through the tenders, package A and package B. And it lists, the streets. And I did ask the chief engineer, how many kilometers are we doing in these packages? And I thought he said 10 to 14 kilometers, but if you add up the kilometers, like for example, with Schedule B, or is it Schedule A? Schedule A, like take for example, it says Bishop Street, University Avenue, 100 meters, Granville Street, University Avenue, to Bishop Street, 150 meters. And you go down to, Norwood Road, end of paved section, 1,050 meters. And then you go to ditching, shoulder reshaping, and shoulder and work. I just want to find out, Scott, if I added up those in package A, Schedule A, it was about 5 kilometers of resurfacing. And I thought you said maybe, it's not there, I can't see it, 10 to 14 kilometers. The reason I bring this up, because we're going to, hopefully we'll be going out for a Schedule C package, because we did get the approval from council at about $1 million, but package A was at about 1.4 million, maybe plus. So with $1 million, we're not going to get 5 kilometers, because I know there is ditching, shouldering, reshaping, and shouldering work. Like, for example, Norwood Road, they had to do both sides of the road, which is 1 kilometer. That's 2 kilometers of work. But it doesn't give the amounts, like, it doesn't give a description of all those streets that had to be reshaped, ditched, and so forth, and some of them wouldn't have to be. So can you estimate what Schedule C is going to look like in terms of how many kilometers of paving we'll be able to do? I just want to see if we can get it on the
mics for whatever. Thank you, Your Worship. So until we finalize that list, I can't estimate. And I think it was you that mentioned that you thought it was 10 to 14 in a previous meeting, kilometers. And I said I had to go back and review, because it depends on each, as you mentioned, every street's a little different. There's different work that needs to be done either in advance or following paving. Some of those costs get done or are carried in this contract. Some of those costs are carried in other accounts because our own crews, whether it's Public Works or Water and Sewer crews, do that work. So there are a number of factors that are at play when determining how many kilometers of roadway we can pave with a certain budget. And so until we finalize that list and know that that extent of that work outside of just paving, I can't really comment on how much we anticipate being able to pave at this moment.
Under package B, again, you go through some of these numbers, and again, it was about 4.8 kilometers. And the largest being the Royalty Junction Road, which is about 1,300 meters, that's 1.3 kilometers. But then if you go down to the ditching, again, it says both sides of the road, so that's 2.6 kilometers. So is it costing more to ditch than to pave? Or like, you know, when you go into the new Winslow, West Royalty, East Royalty and so forth, that's where you're gonna be doing a lot of ditching, which means that takes from all that packaged money that we approved in the budget for 24-25, and we've approved $1 million for an additional funding or additional, doing an initial package, Schedule C. So can I just ask, are we going to try to concentrate in downtown or like in areas where we don't have to do a lot of ditching, but just do resurfacing? Because there's a dire need to do more paving.
So, Your Worship, the challenge with this one, because we're so late in the year getting this tender out, I can't confirm where we're going to focus on or what streets are going to be able to be completed. Because as I mentioned, there's a number of factors that go into determining what roads we're able to do in a year. And one of the factors that we have to look at is what other infrastructure needs upgrades before, or repairs, I should say, ahead of paving. So right now, we do have a rough tentative list, and it's rough because we're not sure if all those streets are going to be a candidate at the end of the day, because we have to send that out to the folks at Water and Sewer. And what they have to do is look at, okay, is there any, have they identified any major repairs that need to be done underground before paving on that street, and that they weren't anticipating doing until next year. They also have to go out and exercise every single valve on that street. And what this does is it helps them identify if all the valves are working on the street, and if they're not, then they go in and repair that valve ahead of time before we go in and pave. Because we don't want to come back, middle of winter, and they had to go dig that out to do an emergency repair on a valve, and damage that street. We want all of that infrastructure repaired ahead of time. But for a public works side of things, we have crews that have to go check every catch basin on those streets and see if they need to be repaired. As well as sidewalks and curb. So that's what's taking place right now, is both departments are reviewing that list that we believe we can get paved this year with the additional budget approved. But I anticipate there will be a few changes to that, just because there is always some surprises, whether there's a couple valves that need to be replaced and they won't be able to be repaired before the asphalt plants shut down. Or there's just too much sidewalk repair work that needs to be done on the street that we have to delay it to next year. So there's still there's a lot of moving pieces right now to finalize this list. And so to comment on that, I can't give you a straight answer or a clear answer on where, what the focus of roads are going to be, because it just depends on a number of factors.
So, Madam Chair, this is a final question, and the reason I keep bringing it up, we need to pave more, we need to resurface more, we need to do more ditching, filling. So, Royalty Junction Road, Winslow Road to Confederation Trail, that was on the list, that 5-year paving list, that 1,300 meters? Is that like some of these roads or streets I'm looking at, I didn't know they were up that far up the queue. Royalty Junction Road, Winslow Road, Confederation Trail, which definitely needs work, especially on both sides, city and the province, because that has to continue to Brackley Point Road to finish it off. So the list, I'm sure, compiles with the list, or aligns and adheres to the list of worst first streets to be rehabilitated, rebuilt, and so forth.
So, Your Worship, in regards to your question there, so Royalty Junction, absolutely, it was asphalt road. It was inspected. It was very poor condition, as probably anyone that's driven on it, how rough it was. So yes, it qualified. On the Norwood Road, there was no way to actually compare it to other roads because it wasn't even paved. And the reason why it was identified to be paved this year, there has been a number of requests from especially emergency services. Because it's not a maintained road in the winter months, there was a significant amount of concern from both our fire and police departments about safety and access to East Royalty in the event of emergency. And we saw that happen, I believe it was last year or the year before, when a large truck turned over in the roundabout and blocked traffic for a long period of time. So their only access at that point in time was either to take the long route and head out through Mermaid and come back around, or go through Norwood Road, which was a poorly maintained gravel road that was only for access to a couple ditch or a couple C&D sites. Because it is city maintained, it is a city right of way, and we identified it as an urgent matter to move it up top of the list to ensure that, safety for our residents. That's our goal, working with our friends at police and fire. We play a key role in safety for all our residents, and that was just one of those items that needed to be done sooner rather than later, so that we ensure emergency services can get out there and either fight fires or respond to police calls. And so that's how we play a role in that, and that's why it got moved up to the top as well this year.
Thank you. And we are moving in, he's going to go through a payment condition index review next, in the first report. And that's interesting because it really clearly breaks down, as you see in your package, kind of what they look at, how they look at that. And Scott, I'm sure you have that probably for the whole city, because I know we've seen the yellow lines, the green lines, and the red lines, right? So I'm wondering, similar to how we identified sidewalk master plan, if we can look at street master plan coming into budget, and that way, if it's, if we're seeing 5 streets are very, very poor condition, and it's going to work and whatever, that we start plucking off and knowing exactly how much money we budget at that time. But that would be something I think would be certainly beneficial for all council. And then you have your data to back it up. But I'm going to move into pavement condition index review, and we can have further discussion. Go ahead. Oh, sorry, Councillor Twill, before we do, go ahead.
At the council meeting, I asked a question about maintenance of vehicles. We just purchased 8 vehicles for police. And I asked, is there a tender that goes out when it comes to maintenance of these vehicles, everything from oil changes to tire changes, whatever the case may be? And it was stated at the meeting that, paraphrasing, well, if it's a Ford vehicle, it goes to Ford, and if it's a Dodge vehicle, it goes to Dodge Chrysler. So can somebody here give me an indication how that works? Because I've had people ask me, they want to know if, in fact, it does go to tender, and does it go to the dealership to have these vehicles, do the maintenance that's required?
Councillor Twill, that's not business arising out of our last month's minutes, but we can look at that as putting that for a notion under new business as we move ahead.
Well,
That's
I
not
just
included.
thought I'd ask, come up
Yeah.
with council meeting, can I just get an answer? I
Not right
don't want to
now.
wait another month.
I
No.
don't mind answering. It's a very quick answer.
Go
Very
ahead.
quick.
Yeah, I don't want to wait another month.
So, Councillor, so if it's a brand new vehicle and it's if it's a brand new vehicle and it's under warranty, it goes to the dealership. Warranty repairs are done at the dealership. If it's oil changes, tire rotations, tire repairs, it goes to the Dave's Auto Electric on Eden Street. That was a tendered process, I believe about a year ago now. I think we received 3 or 4 submissions for it. They were the successful bidder for all repairs to police vehicles outside of warranty repairs. So Dave's Electric is who does all the day-to-day repairs. Any warranty work goes to the particular dealership.
Okay, Scott, thanks. So, for sure, if it's not under warranty, you're telling me guaranteed it definitely goes to Dave's on Belmont Street, correct? Nowhere else?
Or Eden Street. So yes,
Sorry,
there would be maybe the odd time that Dave's Electric, for whatever reason, maybe they are short-staffed and they can't do a repair for 2 weeks and we need that vehicle right away. There would be the rare occurrence that we may need emergency repair somewhere else. That happens with Public Works as well. But 99.9% of the time, it goes to Dave's Auto Electric on Eden Street. That's correct.
and he does oil changes and all those kinds of things, right? Okay.
Okay, thank
Okay.
you. Okay, so now we're going to move into the pavement condition index review.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So this report stems from a notice of motion that we received from Councillor Duran to review a few streets on within his ward, which includes Cedar, Fulton, and Parkview Drive. So just for everyone's information around this table, a couple things. We are, and I was talking to this with Mr. McEwen yesterday as well, we are going to prepare a presentation to council that gives a detailed, high-level summary of how we get to our yearly list of street resurfacing, identify the factors that go into rating streets, and the work that goes on behind the scenes that most people don't realize that takes place ahead of us finalizing those lists. There's a lot of planning and execution that needs to happen from both Public Works and Water and Sewer, and I think it'd be very good to highlight that because I feel a number of folks that just don't understand the number of hours that go into planning these lists. It is very challenging. That's why it's taken us a little time to get the package C out because there is a lot of work behind the scenes to be done to finalize these lists. So going back, last year we typically do our ratings in the fall, and the reason why we do our ratings in the fall is so that we can prepare over the winter months for the upcoming season, so that our crews can plan and budget accordingly for the work that needs to be done ahead of paving, and so that all streets are ready to go for paving when the contractor's ready to go. So we've got this notice of motion from Councillor Duran to review these 3 streets. So we went out, went out and re-rated them to review them. So one thing about Cedar, it did not get reviewed. We already knew it was in very poor condition. It would have triggered this year. The challenge, or the reason why it did not get put on this year, is because it's slated for the 5-year plan for a new sidewalk. It got cut this year because we just didn't have the budget to add a new sidewalk this year for Cedar. It is top priority for next year, so it gets bumped down the list to next year for a brand new sidewalk. So Cedar Avenue will be on the paving list for next year. We'll get the sidewalk installed and then pave the entire street once the new sidewalk's installed. Next was Fulton. So Fulton, when it was reviewed, it did go down a couple points. That is expected over winter months. It will deteriorate a bit, just from wear and tear. Frost. Those freeze and thawing cycles do put some strain on our asphalts. However, it only went down about 3 points. Didn't change the rating very much, and so it's still roughly in the same position it was prior to re-rating it. Parkview. So one thing we also have to remember is a lot of our longer streets are broken up into segments. So that's why you see Parkview 1 and 2. And the reason for this is it just, it helps us, sometimes, especially in the past when we had smaller asphalt budgets, it allowed us to do work in all areas of the city versus just doing one stretch of road, which tied up a lot of budget. So as you can see, Parkview 1, or Parkview Drive, Section 1 from Elizabeth to Christie. This is, I think, the section that Councillor Duran referred to as was really broken up. And as you can see, it did change quite a bit. Our assumption is because there's a lot of cracking on the road in the fall that was identified, more water got in there, more freezing and thawing, and it just deteriorated that section of road much quicker than anticipated. So it did go down significantly. Parkview Drive, Section 2, Christie Drive to Belvedere Avenue. Actually, the rating stayed, our rating this year was slightly better at 46. So it's marginal. It stayed about the same over the winter months. So from that review, we're looking at Parkview Drive. We would likely add that to package C because it does requalify now, but we're not sure. There's a lot of metal still on the road that we have to inspect from both Water and Sewer and Public Works, and any other infrastructure around that may need upgrades. So it's being considered for package C for this year.
Thank you. I'm sure there's many that's again where that list would be helpful if we had a full list of what the ratings were, where you could see, 36, if someone's 28, if someone's 39. It just gives you that visual for someone like me to understand.
Yeah, and what we can do probably is we can send an email, just kind of give everyone just a high level, here's the map, and here's kind of the list of streets and where they kind of are ordered in. But then we will go through it in more detail at a presentation, likely, my aim is September, October of this year, which is great timing, just in advance of our, when we'll reevaluate all streets and start getting ready for next year.
I think that'll, good. It'll help and refresh everybody. Any questions on the for information only report in front of us? Councillor Twill?
It's related to this report. I filed a notice of motion 2 months ago, so where's that report, Scott?
Thank you, Councillor. So just because of resources, we're getting there. So we are evaluating your streets. The report will probably come at next committee, but the goal is to get them evaluated along with this process of selecting streets for Package C. So those streets that you brought up might be considered for Package C paving. Again, we're doing the evaluations as we speak right now to see if they would see where those ratings change from last fall.
Everybody
Madam Chair,
else? Go ahead.
I just want to
Your
ask, Scott, a lot of people can go around and just look at a street and just say, that has to be paved, that should be paved, so forth. But what are some of the criteria that goes into that evaluation? Like, there's you, there's Richard, there's Riley, your PNGs. So it's not just what you see in the surface, it's the subgrade, right? Do you have that, when you're doing that evaluation, is that all part of the is that the summary evaluation of what you're?
You can give a quick answer, but hopefully that information will come to our presentation.
Exactly. So I'll go in more depth when the presentation is ready. But what we're actually looking at is pavement condition index, or PCI we call it, and it's all about what you're seeing visually on top of the asphalt. Because if your subbase is in poor condition, it's going to reflect very quickly in your asphalt. So there's not really a lot of tests that you would do on your subbase, because again, if it's shifting a lot, it's going to show in the asphalt very quickly.
Yeah.
So no, it's a visual inspection. We're looking for cracking, shoving, potholing, patching. We're looking at a number of different factors when reviewing streets. And the system we're using, it is a ASTM, so it is a national, or I think it's North American wide at least, standard for rating streets. There's a number of conditions you look at, you give them certain ratings, and then there's formulas in the background that give you this PCI, or the value for the rates of the road.
And Madam Chair, the reason I bring that up, because I think the criterion also would include, when we're doing that evaluation, how many kilometers are going to each of the wards. Like, as I said, Package A, Schedule A, that Norwood Road was over a kilometer plus, but then the ditching was 2 kilometers because you did ditch both sides. But when you go into the downtown, or the Parkdale area, Sherwood area, you're not looking at a lot of ditch clearing or ditch and shouldering. So, if we want to get more done, we have to look at the inner city, the old city, and the newer city since amalgamation, and try to balance that out. Because the only way to solve this is just to keep putting more money into it. Because if we don't want to, we want to put notice of motions up here on this floor to say we need this street done, that street. Put more money on the table, or let's look at a balance between the old city and the new city since amalgamation. And again, I can go with some of the other long pieces of infrastructure upgrades that we did for street rehabilitation, and some will see an imbalance.
So, Your Worship, just to respond to that, so the balance. So, as a staff, we're not looking at wards. The city's one for us. So, our goal is to provide the best service and the best value to all residents of Charlottetown. So again, we rate all streets on the same metrics, and they all get ranked. And so one year, one area might get a lot of work, well, the following year, they might even not, they might get zero paving. We're not looking at wards at the end of the day, we're putting money where it needs to go. Because again, if you don't do that, if you let a road continue to get worse and worse and worse, then you're starting to get into, maybe instead of a mill pave, you're a pulverizing pave, so it's increasing the cost. So the goal is to trigger or to repair those roads at the right time so that we're trying to reduce those long-term costs. And when you talk about ditching, the reason why ditching gets put in this contract is we don't have the equipment or resources in-house to do that. So we get the contractor to coordinate that along with their road work. However, when you come downtown, there's sidewalk repairs, there's catch basin repairs, there are water and sewer repairs. There's much more money put in from the operations side, but it is still taxpayer dollars that we're having to do work on all this other infrastructure ahead of paving. So it may look like it's a little skewed because we lump in the ditching in this tender, but at the end of the day, both areas, all areas of the city, there's a lot of work being done ahead of paving, and whether it is ditches or sidewalk work or water and sewer work. I think there's a bigger discussion needs to be had in terms of, what is our target goal for replacement? That is, what's our level of service for streets? Some cities, and I think we touched on this last budget, is what is our turnover rate? How often do we want to get back to every street and resurface it? Is it 20 years? Is it 25 years? Is it 30 years? And then you can work back from those numbers and determine how much money you need to put in that budget every year. And yes, it is increasing every year, and so that's something that we have to take into account. And are there more other methods that we can do to extend the life of those asphalts? Yes, there are. There's more maintenance techniques that we can do. There are more preservation techniques to do. But that all comes to dollars and cents at the end of the day. And do we want to hire more staff? Do we want to hire more contractors? Again, there's a number of factors that I think there needs to be great discussion on this. I think it is, and that's all going to be hopefully a part of that presentation is to figure out, what is the strategy, where do we want to end up at the end of the day, and so I think that's going to be part of that presentation coming up soon.
Thank you, Scott. Councillor Twill?
Scott, I don't know if this is meant for you or the director's level, at the highest level here at City Hall. We went through that budget process, and I was shocked that no money was put in for sidewalks. There was hardly any money put in for street paving. And here we're having these discussions now, right, about the need to do street paving and sidewalk repairs and all this infrastructure. How come there seems to be a disconnect between what we say here at the committee level and the council level and what senior management talks about at the budget time? Why is there such a disconnect? Can somebody help me with that? Can Richard or you, Mike, can you help me with that? Why is there such a disconnect? Because we're dealing with this month after month. We hear from the residents month after month on a daily basis. Why is my street not getting paved? Why isn't this being done? And then when we come to budget time, oh no, we got no money. And then we're trying to play catch up. Scott, and you just said here a few minutes ago that it's too late in the year for this and, for this package or that package. Like, why is there such a disconnect? Can somebody give me an answer?
Do you want to answer that, Richard? I'm guessing it's because we can't operate in a deficit and they come in.
No, there's no deficit. I'm sorry, Councillor McCabe. There was no deficit. There was all kinds of money, okay? We have record development in this city. The money was there. So why is there such a disconnect?
I'll let Richard answer why he thinks there's such a disconnect.
Well, I don't think there is. We go through our budget process, look at the money that we have available, and look to make sure that we are fiscally responsible with that money. We cannot budget for a deficit, and we do have a paving budget this year. We do have a sidewalk budget this year, and it's that give and take through the budgeting process. You need to look at the amount of money that you have, available. And I'm sure you're very aware that if we want more money, there's only a couple of ways the city is able to get more money. And you're right, we are a growing city that helps with our tax base, but the other way to increase that is a tax rate increase. And that is not what our residents are looking for at this point in time, but if council brings that forward, that the residents feel that they want more roads paved, and our budget as it increases with the development within the city, if you want even more roads paved, then you need to look at collecting more money from residents, and there's really only way to collect more money from our residents.
Or cutting other services that we aren't able to, yeah. Okay, go ahead, you have a follow-up, Councillor Twill.
No, Richard, I'm not suggesting a tax increase. In fact, I even suggested during this past budget to freeze property assessments to give the residents a break because of the
Chair,
costs
just point of
that
order.
they're-
Yes.
This is a finance discussion.
I agree.
No, I know, I understand
I
that.
think that we're gonna
These
move
are
on.
greater
I know
than
that,
this
Scott.
table.
Thank you,
Yeah, I know-
yep,
I
okay,
know
we're
that,
gonna
Scott,
move on
but-
and have that discussion.
No, hold, just.
How can you,
without-
how can you increase what you want to do and cut taxes and freeze taxes? It doesn't make
Didn't
any
say cut
sense.
taxes.
Hey, you boys,
I didn't say
thank
cut
you.
tax, I said,
Can you
I
shut
said,
this mic off? Thank you. We're gonna move
so you're not
on.
gonna let me, you're not gonna let me finish.
If you're gonna get on task to what the question is
Yeah,
to do with
so
what we're talking
I wanna know
about,
why, I
Councillor
wanna
Twill.
know why there was no money at budget time, but there's money now.
There was no money at budget. We went looking and we approved an extra $1 million because we asked.
Yeah, so I wasn't, just to Councilor McAleer, wasn't talking about cutting taxes. I said to freeze the property assessments so they wouldn't go up any. I didn't say cut taxes.
Okay.
No, it's
So
not.
let's wait and get back for that. That was an update for Councillor Duran, and that will be in our package. And hopefully, I know there might be more questions around the sidewalk going on Cedar Avenue at that point, but that will be something we can deal with and be prepared for. So the next report is the 11.6-foot aluminum dump body. It's to inform council of the results of the public tendering process completed through the Canoe procurement as part of the Federation of Municipalities contract for this project. Scott.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So, as you're aware, we buy a number of vehicles throughout the year. Sometimes we buy larger trucks, so 500 or 5,000 or 5,500 series trucks, which is our larger trucks that we use, or one-ton trucks we use. They are chassis, so typically there's no box that gets installed because from the factory it's just a typical body or typical tailgate on it, and we need a different type of body, whether it's a lift-up body on it to so it lasts for our purposes. So through our partners of FCM PEI, we can take advantage of a procurement process called Canoe. It is essentially what the goal of this is purchasing power. There are a number of organizations that participate in this, and as most know, the more you buy, typically the cheaper the price is. And that's the theory behind this procurement process. Under our current procurement policy, if there is a line in there that says if it is in the best interest of the city, we can make a recommendation to go through a process or a certain way, and this would fall under that. Because it was tendered or there was an RFP done up through Canoe, and Action Car and Truck are the preferred vendor through that process. So what we are recommending as staff is to take advantage of this program to purchase this aluminum dump body in the amount of $23,557 plus all applicable taxes from Action Car and Truck Accessories.
Thank you. Before I open up, do you have any guess of what the difference would be if we tendered that on our own as far as pricing?
That is Madam Chair, that's a great question, and that is something that I cannot comment on. There are so many factors that can be at play when we tender it. It could depend on time of year. Maybe you get a discounted price because they're year-end clearance, or you get an inflated price because they're just so busy that they'll take on the work, but they're just going to fit it in when they can. So There's no, I can't say if this is best deal. It seems like a very reasonable price for sure in comparison to what we purchased in the past. But if we were to tender it, I'm not sure what the results could be.
Counselor Twill.
Scott, how does this affect local dealerships? Does this have any impact on local dealerships being able to submit bids or tendering process? How does it affect the procurement policy and anticipated procurement bylaw, whenever that happens?
Councillor Twill. In all actuality, Action Car Truck does have a local dealer here on North River Road. So they would have bid whether it's through this process or on ours. They do, I want to say 90% of our truck bodies at the end of the day, Joey. Yeah, they do. They do the majority of our truck bodies because they are they're one of the few around city that does this type of work. So they do supply a great product. We really have, and we've had great service from them in the past. So from my perspective, we're still getting in a company that has a presence here in Charlottetown.
Counselor McAleer.
Thank you, Chair. Just curious to understand, on the canoe piece, that's, I guess it's the department's choice if they decide to go through the canoe procurement piece. Is that, and if so, does the department have much of a history with canoe? Is it something that they've used prior to this term?
Councillor McAleer, so really a good question. So when we were exploring how to go to tender, one of the things we're always looking at, we're limited on resources, and to tender ourselves, sometimes it can take a lot of time to get a tender document put together, especially in the summer months when all our staff are just flat out busy. So the advantage of it is it takes a lot of that work out of play for our staff. It's already been done by a third party, which is it saves us a lot of time, which is great for us. We haven't used, so Canoe has changed names, I think. I think there used to be another provider. We did use them before. Unfortunately, that was with the Enterprise Fleet Management one, which was awarded originally, but then was rescinded about a year later. So that would be the only experience that I have with them, this type of organization. We did vet this through finance and the director of finance as well, who both came back and said it seemed like a good process to follow, and because it is a public tendering process, at the end of the day, it does meet our criteria to bring forward to council.
Counselor Twill.
Yeah, Scott, so again, just to reiterate, so this will not affect local dealers like the folks you mentioned on North River Road from submitting bids and tenders for city vehicles like the one you just mentioned. So it won't affect them at all. We pass this resolution here. I just want to understand what I'm voting on. So if we pass this here, it won't affect the ability of that business in North River Road to be able to submit bids and put tenders in, and so they'll continue to get that work, right?
Councillor Twill, so I'm not quite understanding how we would impact them. This is one item that we're going for purchase in the truck box. So if it gets approved through here in the council, then the work would be awarded to the Action Truck.
Okay, all right, I just want to understand it.
And on future tenders, if we go through this process, or if we go public, anyone is open, or if we go through our tendering process, I should say, they can bid on it, and anyone else can bid on it at that time as well.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Your Worship.
I like what our chief engineer had to say. The more you spend, the more you get back. It's like that commercial racketeering. Is it racketeering, where you spend more, you get more bonus, you can buy more, and so forth. Scott, soon as you said canoe, soon as I heard canoe as the vehicle to go to tender on this, I remember the Enterprise Fleet Management. This is what we took through. This is the route we followed with that Enterprise Fleet Management. And you recall, we had 13, maybe 15 dealers come to this council chamber and said, this is not the way to go. So I'm not supporting this resolution. The reason I'm not supporting it, Madam Chair, is that we have Merck's, which goes across the country. We can be a part of, a member of that. Merck's is a bidding platform for, it covers the whole country. So Merck's is, I know lots of municipalities use Merck's. We have our own tendering process. I'm not in favor of Canoe. I know Canoe is connected to FCM, Federation of Canadian Municipalities, but I know there's a truck dealer or a truck box dealer out in Vernon River owned by the Scales, and they took it over from Drake Truck Bodies. So, you know, we have the expertise here, just here in the island, plus we have it in the Maritimes. So, Madam Chair, if we want to go to tender, use Merck's, use our own tendering system. I don't, and again, Scott, you mentioned that this was discussed at finance, I don't remember discussing it at finance, because that would have been a red light for me to say, whoa, we've gone down this route before.
It was discussed with the manager and
Oh.
the director, so it wasn't, it was
Oh.
outside of any
Oh.
committee meetings. It was a
Yeah.
operational question to see if there was support at that level to proceed with that,
Yeah.
which there was at that time.
Yeah, you know, Madam Chair, just to sum up, we have to support local, we have to buy local, and we have to love local, so I will not be supporting the resolution.
Can I just ask for clarification, because now I'm confused, is Action not local?
So they have a local presence in PEI. They're on North River Road. Again, I never know how to answer the local question because there are so many definitions out there. But all I can say is they have a presence in Charlottetown on North River Road.
Chair, if you also remember, Enterprise Fleet Management had local dealers, Ford, Dodge.
No, I just
you know,
want to get my head around
and
it.
again,
I don't vote right today
But
anyway,
Canoe
okay?
is a platform to
Okay.
do this tendering. We have Merck's, which is a proven, tested platform, tendering platform to serve municipalities, provincial governments, federal governments, private industry. That's one platform. There's many platforms out there to tender. Thank you.
Councillor McAleer.
Just, I guess, an operation question as it relates to this piece of equipment. I'm assuming there's a truck waiting for this box, and we have a truck that's not able to probably do what it should be doing in the meantime if it doesn't get the box. Can somebody speak to that?
Yes, Councillor. So just confirm with our assistant manager, yes, the truck and chassis is waiting in the parking lot for this piece of equipment. So until it does get installed, it's just sitting at this moment. And just another point of clarification with, I believe Merck's is more of a advertising platform. So we would still do the tendering process, and then Merck's is essentially, we would upload our tender to Merck's. And anyone, you have to sign up for it, but a lot of companies do. They get notifications on different types of tenders that are out there across Canada and North America, I believe Merck's is. And so, yeah, they would get notifications. So that's, I think, just two different types of processes. Like I say, Canoe does the tendering and the reviews of the RFPs and identifies the preferred vendor for a certain piece of equipment, where Merck's is solely a way to advertise our tenders across the country.
To me, like maybe, the chair of finance is here, so maybe this discussion needs to happen at the finance committee where we tighten up how we want and what tendering process again around our procurement. I'll put a notice for that later, but right now on the floor is, we've heard his worship indicate he's not willing to support this, but staff is asking us to support this to move to council for approval. Do I have someone that will do that?
Just one more question. Can we deal with the request to purchase what you need to do right now, Scott, and deal with this like from a global perspective, as opposed to saying no to this and then saying no to the vehicle that you need to get on the road? Can we do that?
Sure you can.
Check
Let's
the mic
do
off,
that.
Your worship.
Okay, so Public Works can get on with business. So, and we can deal with this so that we need to have a broader discussion on this, but let's deal with getting Public Works, the,
The box
So-
they need.
Yeah,
So
the box
yes,
that they need.
Councillor Twill, so it's a great question. So to deal with the matter at hand, again, the staff recommendation is to go through this process and award this one so that we can get the box ordered and get it here and get it installed on a truck. But I agree, there is a bit larger conversation that needs to happen. And again, these are financial matters, so that would have to be at the committee level and council level, of course, on I think a direction needs to be given to staff through that bylaw. Are we ever going to consider these types of, and they are great initiatives, they do help a lot of municipalities. You look at the smaller ones that need a specialized piece of equipment and they only buy it once every 20 years and they don't have the procurement people in-house, it really helps them. And so there are advantages to this, but I think, again, a bigger, broader discussion needs to be at the finance and council level, whether we want to use these types of
Platforms or
systems.
not. I agree.
Or if it's just we will, because of our size, we always want to tender it out ourselves and control that process. We're not opposed to that either. We can do it. It does take more time, of course, for us to do it. But you know, we'll participate in that conversation if you folks would like to have us help us or help you
And-
have that discussions.
Our CAO is not here today to take that under advisement, but maybe we do have two directors here that we could make sure that it gets transferred over to the proper director to maybe make sure that this is discussed, because I agree that it is a bigger level that we would like to look at.
But Madam Chair, we went through this
Yeah.
with Enterprise Fleet Management.
But there's obviously nothing, your worship, in place to say that we're not looking at other whatever. I agree with you.
Well, didn't we learn? When we turned it down, we said no to this
I-
kind of
I-
tendering.
I agree.
But we're going back to it.
But,
This is if I can just finish, this is a slippery slope. Like, don't tell me that there's an aluminum box that's not out there somewhere in the area that we can pick up in 2 weeks or 4 weeks. Like, again, manufactured boxes, they don't, you just don't phone a truck body and say, I want this done today, can you get me? They have inventory for this type of, for these type of requests. But Merck's, yes, is advertisement, but it is a tendering process that goes nationwide. And Scott, this is what and Councillor Tweed's been asking for it, and Councillor Duran and other councillors. No procurement bylaw puts us in this position where we're in.
Exactly.
5 years. Now,
Yeah.
I'm not blaming the current finance administration, but 5 years. And Steve Wedlock, on his way out, did prepare a 24-page procurement bylaw, and it was going through committee, and then COVID hit. So we had references there to make things work. But again, Canoe is the vehicle that the Enterprise Fleet Management used to get council on board to purchase vehicles without going through our local dealerships. Canoe is doing the same thing here with manufactured truck bodies or dump boxes or whatever.
Okay, so, and that's fine, and you have a right to, like, not to put it, right now, we need to see, is anyone willing to move this to council to support
Yeah,
council?
well, I told you, I'm against it, so.
Okay, that's fine. Is anybody willing to move
Yeah.
this to council for approval? Councillor McAleer is. Councillor Twill, are you willing to second that?
the way it is now?
Are we willing,
Can we not just purchase what Public Works need now and then deal with this concept later?
right now, we're dealing with what they want, which is in front of us, to go with this.
That means
That
this
means-
parallels Enterprise PEI.
Enterprise Fleet Management.
In the big scheme, it does, and we've already said that that's going to require a bigger discussion. In front of us right now is,
Yeah, I know what's in front of us, but do we have the ability to put this on hold and get Public Works what they need?
no,
Why not?
well, you might, but
Why
it's not
not?
going to, because he'll answer it again for the,
What? Can we not do that, Scott?
So, Councillor, no, we have to tender. So if this doesn't get approved, then we will have to create a tender, go to public tenders, and follow that process. So we're looking probably at maybe 4, but likely 6 weeks before something comes back to council or committee to be reviewed and approved, to move to council and all that. And just to remind, so a couple things I'm hearing some clarification. One, there is a bit of a difference between this matter at hand and enterprise. Enterprise is a long-term, year-over-year strategy. This is a one purchase. It went through that process. That's correct. Yep. But I think the concern was the local dealers didn't have that, because it was such a long-term commitment. The dealers felt like they were losing out or missing out or didn't get that opportunity. Where I see this as it's a more of a one-off purchase so that we can meet our current needs that we have. And then as Councillor Tweel said, then we do need to have a bigger discussion on the procurement bylaw, for sure, on our direction, on how we deal with these matters. So that's, I just wanted to clarify that.
So Councillor McAleer has put this on to move to council for approval so that they can get their box.
Does this have to go to finance?
No. Already was approved, correct?
No, Councillor Tweel, no, there is money in the budget, so it doesn't go to finance, it goes to
Okay,
council.
all right.
And
I'm
just
gonna-
to
I'm-
clarify.
Here's what I'm gonna do.
Just
I'm
to
gonna
clarif-
se-
do you
I'm
mind
gonna
if I
second it.
clarify one thing? So what the vote is here is, it still goes to council, but as you're aware in those reports, there's a box. If the committee does not agree or wants an amendment to what staff are recommending, that wording goes in that box for that report to go to council. So just to remind you, so it does still go to council to review it, and they can reject it based on the recommendation of committee, or they can accept it based on the recommendation of staff. So just wanted to clarify for everyone, because I think there's some confusion here.
Well, I want Public Works to get on with the work that they need, right? I'm not trying to be, not trying to delay that. I just don't want to go down the same road as Enterprise PEI, okay? I don't want to go down that road again. So,
I think that's where we will have discussion at the council level, and that will again allow us the opportunity to say, we want to push finance to have it so that we're not using these maybe bigger platforms to
Scott,
do business.
but Scott said this will take another 8 weeks, right? Because then you're going to have to re-tender it?
Up to 4 to 6 weeks likely, because yes, we got to prepare a tender document. It's got to be reviewed by finance. It gets posted. We got to keep it open for a minimum 2 weeks, closed, and then we got to get another meeting of committee.
I'll second to move it on to council.
Okay, so all those in favor to move this to council? Councillor Tweel and Councillor McAleer, Councillor, his worship's against, Amber. Okay. I think we're seeing now more than ever that procurement bylaw is really important.
It's been very important for 5 years.
Yeah. Okay, we're going to move on to the next item, which is the Charlottetown Police Station generator upgrade. Scott, before we get into your report on that, I've been asking as well, we've been waiting for a long time for Cody Banks' generator. Is that under EMO or is that under Public Works?
So, Madam Chair, we work very closely. We work with every department. This is kind of a shared matter because we look after generators at the end of the day. And the Cody Banks is a public or Parks and Rec facility, but it's being pushed or led because of the EMO side of things. So it's a shared project. But what I can tell you is we're looking at right now for Cody Banks is the use of one of our portable generators. So we have the large portable generators that were originally designated for West Royalty and Hillsborough Hall. Over this past summer, as you probably all remember, we passed a resolution because we were able to leverage some funds because those are both facilities that are used as warming centers or as emergency centers at the end of the day. So we got some great funding from both the federal government and the provincial government, and both those facilities now have permanent generators that can power those buildings during an outage.
And they're in, they're installed.
And they're in, and they are operational at this
Great.
moment. So
Thank you.
so that's freed up those 2 portables. So those 2 portables, one's going to be wired up, and they're working on that plan right now on how that can happen for Cody Banks, so that we can use the Maple Room and the arena if we need to. The second one's will be got wired up for Fire Station 2, because they do not have a generator. So that's where that's going to go.
Okay, wonderful.
And I guess now back to the report.
Yeah.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So a tender was issued for the police station generator upgrade. So the current generator is has been installed at least since the renovations, I think in 1996. It might be older. It is an older style. It's indoors, so it's not the most not the most safe, and it is a bit undersized. As their needs continue to grow at the city or at the police department, their power consumption grows as well. The other thing is we've had issues over the past couple of years with that generator operating because of its age. It's a delicate generator, and it requires a lot more maintenance. And being the police station and the 911 center for the city, we've identified that as an urgent need to upgrade that generator so that we can assure when the power goes out, that generator kicks in automatically and our folks at the police station can continue to operate as they need to day during a power outage. So we did issue a tender for the upgrade. We received 2 bids at the end of the day, Olympia and Ainsworth. And so we looked at it. It did come in over budget. I think EMO had budgeted about $100,000 or $95,000 for work towards this. In talks with the police chief and the fire chief, we already had in the public works budget $100,000 for some upgrades for the police hall or for the police station. We deemed that just based on the urgent need of the generator to get upgraded, it was the best to reallocate all those funds for this generator. So you'll see in the financial details of the reports where all the funding, we're recommending take the funding from to raise a purchase order for this. But we are recommending that we move this to council for final approval so that we can begin to get this generator installed because we are obviously we're already in the Atlantic hurricane season right now, and the longer we wait, we're just a little concerned that we're going to have some challenges with that generator if we wait too much longer.
Pretty straightforward. Counselor Twill, do you have a question on the generator? Tender? Is anybody willing to move this on to council for approval?
I want to move it.
Moved by His Worship, seconded by Counselor Twill. All in
Resolution's
favor?
on the floor. Can I just ask?
Oh, yeah.
Thank you. You're very cooperative, Madam Chair. Thank you very much. Scott, you said that the backup generator at the police station's inside, correct? So is the generator here? Yeah. So how old is the generator inside here? Does it go back to 1988 when we completed the 100-year restoration?
It is quite old. I don't know the era or the period when that was installed, but just a heads up, while it's not related to this report, the next area of review is the generators that service both City Hall and Fire Station 1. There's some money set aside for that, and so we're going to start reviewing that tender, getting that designed and figuring out how we can replace both those generators. One of the current ideas is one generator for both facilities, but again, we got to get that designed and figure that out.
So, Madam Chair, we have a backup generator at Malcolm Dare Center, correct?
No, we have, yes, for
Yeah,
a
we-
permanent
it's
one, yeah.
full.
Yep.
Do we have one at the
Hillsborough Community.
Hillsborough Hospital that's being completely renovated?
So yes, one was a brand new permanent, one was installed this summer.
Yep.
Same with West Royalty Community Center has a
West
brand new
Royalty Community-
permanent generator.
Simmons, the new Simmons.
Simmons Arena has a generator installed, that's
Okay.
correct.
And of course, we have,
All our Brackley, both our Brackley Depot, the new one that was built, and our MacLear Drive, they both have permanent generators, both installed within the past couple
and the
years.
reason, I bring that up, Madam Chair, is that EMO is getting more and more stressed because, again, it's the download of responsibilities from the province to municipalities to take care of the local population. And if you talk about tax equity, we're in that process now to get a fair share of what the province collects. That's why we need more money from the province to take care of the basic needs that were basic, now are becoming more of a necessity rather than just taking care of it. So I'm fully supportive of it, and anything that we can do to upgrade any of those, as the chair said, Cody Banks should have something there to take care of that Sherwood Parkdale area, because
It's been approved, it was always.
we don't want to be caught short again like we were with Hurricane Fiona, and we did a tremendous job in reacting to it and being very resilient, but it could get worse because of catastrophic climatic changes, so fully supportive of it. Any more that comes through this Committee, I'd be fully supportive of it.
Okay, thank you. Everybody's fully supportive. Let's take the vote that we're going to move it to council. All those in favor to move it to council? 3-0, thank you. All right. Now we get to, obviously, the tender for pest control is up.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So our last pest control service agreement did expire this year. So we went back out tenders to procure those services for an additional 36 months, plus an option to renew for an additional 2 years. So we went out to tender, and our pest control services are essentially are broken up in two categories. One is city facilities, so that's rodent and bird control and insects and things like that for all our city facilities, including here at City Hall. And then the other portion is skunk and raccoon removal program that we offer to the public. So we had two bidders on this. We had Atlantic Graduate and Rent-A-Kill Terminix Corporation. And both, we reviewed both submissions. They both qualify in terms of submission, but based on the price, we're recommending to award both sections, both the pest control services for our building and the skunk and raccoon removal to Atlantic Graduate Pest Management.
Thank you. I'd love to see somewhere too where we educate people about what is included in the program, because I still think, especially now that we've gone out to new tender, what is going to be expected in that service so that people are clear of what
That's so, just Madam Chair, just on that, so I believe CBC has actually reached out on this one, so we will be doing an interview soon on that, and that's going to be one of the messages we want to get clearly across that. I'll also, it is on my docket to do, just haven't gotten there, work with our communications team on a PSA, just advising people what is the expectation and how does the raccoon and skunk control program work. That's correct.
Thank you. Yeah, I think that's important, communication piece. Councillor McAleer.
It's just on it. So the Atlantic Graduate, it's 68,405, not per year, but over 36 months, correct?
That's correct. If you go down to page 2 of the committee report, you'll see the breakdown of the yearly budget that we'll have to budget for, of course. So yes, that 36 is just the total for 36 months. But then if you look through the document, you can see the breakdown per year.
Well, it's quite a difference. It's kind of a no-brainer.
I move it.
You're moved by His Worship, seconded by Councillor McAleer. All in
No,
favor?
resolution's on the floor. Thank you very much.
I press my button.
Yeah, no, I'm not, I'm just following up, I'm moving and seconded by Councillor McAleer. So I just want to speak to, it's on.
Yeah, but I pressed my button before you did
Oh,
that.
you great.
Pardon me? Yeah, Scott, when you went through the tender, and there is quite a discrepancy between the two quotes, what was the difference that you looked at when you went through the quotes? I mean, excuse me. It is quite a difference. So what was it, like, if you did your comparison, what was the difference that came to light? Or was it just two simple quotes?
Councillor Tweel, so we went through both bids. When we go out to services, we stipulate what we're looking for in terms of services, both for our buildings, pest control, and skunk and raccoon control as well. They both stated similar products, how they what they're going to do. They both said that here's the services that we're going to provide, which is what we asked for. So at the end of the day, it comes down to price. They're both able to they both on paper say they're able to provide the service. Both have done our work in the past. Rent-A-Kill is was the most recent skunk and raccoon control provider. With Atlantic Graduate, also had the buildings last time as well. So for the past couple of years, we've worked with both providers. Previous to that, I believe Atlantic Graduate offered both services. So it's kind of gone back and forth a bit. So they're both able to provide the services. And at the end of the day, our recommendation is based on price. And I can't comment on their business decision on how much things cost to provide these services. But all I can do is when they put it on paper, then I review that and we make a recommendation to award based on what they submit to us in paper.
How many days a week is this service provided? Like, we're going to enter into an agreement?
We're going to get all that information provided, Counselor Twill. He just said in a PSA.
I know, but can you tell me right now how many weeks that service is going to be provided? Is it
It's
7 days a week, or
it's-
how does it work? I don't know.
So for buildings, they provide a service, and if we need them, they have 24-hour services. If we needed them to come in to do
Okay,
some type of rodent control on our buildings, they will come. For the skunk and raccoon control, it is 5 days a week.
5
So
days a
they're-
week?
That's correct. They will set the traps, so I shouldn't say that. I guess I could back up. They'll set the traps Monday through Friday, but if, say, a skunk is trapped on a Saturday, a resident, it's their responsibility. They're going to get a little flyer in their inbox or in their mailbox when the trap is set up. Residents have a responsibility to monitor that trap. So if they know that once they see an animal, whether skunk or raccoon, in that trap, there's a number that they call, and someone will answer or they leave a voicemail. Because then because there's laws around this, right? It's animal cruelty laws. That animal cannot stay in that trap very long. So the resident has to call, and then once the provider receives that call, they dispatch someone immediately to go pick up that skunk or raccoon and dispose of correctly.
just to follow up, what do they do with the animal, Scott? What's the service provider do with the animal?
I believe most of them are disposed of.
And they aren't going to, I know we've always had people under the impression that the city will take care of their vermin problem, but they set the trap, and if it becomes bigger, it would be on the property owner. Like, those are the things that I think people need better clarification around.
That's correct, yeah. So we won't, our provider does not go in buildings or anything like that, or under buildings to set traps. It's, say you see it beside your shed, you see a skunk around your shed, they'll set it beside your shed. They'll ask the homeowner, hey, do you see it hanging out over here more? Okay, great, that's where we'll set the trap up. They don't provide any type of formal report or inspection, anything like that. It's one trap per week per resident. It's not a guarantee that they trap anything. And if nothing's successful in that week, it gets picked up and moved on to the next person on the list that doesn't have a trap yet. Now, the provider has lots of traps, so we hope there's not going to be too long of a list, but we have seen our call volumes go up, and we did indicate that to both providers that, and I don't want to misquote, I think we were originally seeing 100, 150 per year, and then last year it peaked to well over 300 calls. So it has gone up. So both providers are aware of that, and they indicated in their proposal, especially Atlantic Graduate, indicated that they plan to purchase more traps to ensure that they can provide a great service to the city, and we believe that they can.
Yep, for sure. Your
Madam Chair,
worship?
just to speak to the resolution, again, this is a local company, it's Atlantic Graduate. And I remember the last time that we went through this tender, again, it was a differential of bids. Rentokil came in lower. There was some councillors that wanted to go with the higher bid, didn't happen. Here we are now, they got lower price. And I know from calls I've received, I'm sure you've received too, Madam Chair, about they've called Rentokil, couldn't get a response because they don't have a local presence in terms of a satellite office. There is an actual office and structure out on Upton Road for Atlantic Graduates, so good on them to win the bid with a lower price. Question called.
Okay, so willing to move this to council. All in favor? Okay, perfect. The last thing in our open session today is just our minutes from the Civic Board for persons with disabilities. It's for information purposes. Can I ask for clarification? Who designs the terms of reference for these advisory boards? Is that us as a committee, or is that the board themselves?
It was the committees themselves, and then those terms of references went to council for approval.
We didn't look at any this term, though.
No, This is
So
the terms
this-
of reference, so I don't know.
When they
if this-
first established these terms of references, you mean?
No, for 2018 to 2022, terms of references came to this council.
Okay, I think we need to go back and look at some of the.
Well, I thought we
terms
agreed to
of
do that
references.
at
Yeah,
the
I think
last
we
meeting.
need to. And it's just to support them in order to be able to provide better clarity around what their role of the board would be, but we can look at that in another
Thank you.
time. So those are just in there for your information. So I need a motion to move into closed session as Section 119(1)E of the Municipal Government Act of Prince Edward Island, subsection E, to discuss matters still under consideration, negotiations for land purchase, and negotiations for land exchange. Can I have someone move that, please? Moved by His Worship, second by Councillor McAleer. Thank you. Okay, so the next part is any business arising from closed, if applicable. I think we're good with that. Is there any introduction of new business that we would like discussed at a future meeting? Councillor McAleer.
Yeah, could I just, and I don't know if this is the appropriate place or time to ask this question or not, I'm just curious. There was, we talked, of one of our meetings, I think, about the two sidewalk policy, like two sidewalks and streets. Did that, does the city have a policy on that now, or is it something that was going to be explored further? And I just kind of wondered where that landed, or.
I don't think we have an existing policy on whether or not we have one or two sidewalks and streets, but I like the idea of maybe creating some sort of a policy around how that works, as well as I needed to put on for Councillor Bernard, the speed hump criteria and
So
policy.
just a bit about that quickly. So we are working on our municipal design guidelines. And a part of that will include identifying categories of streets, right? So first big thing we need to do is identify what different categories of streets we have. So major arterials, University Avenue. Once you identify, and then we're going to put criteria on, okay, what is an arterial street or a collector street, right? So we're going to put word around it or a definition around it so that we can then classify streets. And once they get classified, then there will be a certain set of design or parameters, what physical infrastructure is on that type of street. And then that is what we will build to ourselves, but also hold developers to as they develop their roads. So that's in the process right now. We got a long road ahead of us. It's a big document, but it's being worked on right now. So yes, it will be coming down the pipe in the near future.
So just follow up to that. So in the meantime, would I assume rightly or wrongly that there'd be no, in the decision to put a second sidewalk on a street otherwise, in the absence of that being updated, that would be deferred potentially?
It's so good question. I guess I would want to get that policy in place. There are probably a couple streets that we will likely need to get a second sidewalk or a multi-use pathway. That's kind of the thought process is our goal would be one side would be a multi-use and one would be a sidewalk on the streets that require something, a walking path on either side. So yes, there are some long-term strategies that we got to come up with and identify. But I think the key is identifying what roads and setting that definition ahead of time, because I think it's more productive for council and staff to have that debate at the beginning on identifying what those streets are first versus having a discussion or a debate on individual streets. Yes, there are some streets out there that I know are going to be classified as a major collector or arterial that will require two sidewalks that only have one right now. So yes, so we know that there are some deficiencies out there. And I think we need to have a bit of discussion first before we identify when and where we are going with those.
We have lots of streets that still need one.
Well, that's it too. And some of those major thoroughfares, University Avenue, North River Road, we're doing a master plan this fall for Mount Edward Road. That's another priority for us as well.
Yeah.
I'm very convinced.
Allen Street?
I'm very convinced that when we finalize that plan, yes, we're going to show in the diagrams, yes, a sidewalk and a multi-use pathway on all those streets.
Future discussion
exactly.
coming ahead.
Yep.
Thank you. Okay.
Councillor,
So,
did
do you have another notice that you want brought up at a next meeting? Anybody else?
I do.
Okay, yes,
No, go ahead.
go, yeah.
So I did send all of you an email during this meeting from Harborside Engineering, Richard, and those are the drawings that we made reference to yesterday in our meeting about that West Royalty traffic study that was conducted or completed by CBCL. So if we want to start developing those lands, there's options. I think Harborside has listed option 3 as, a workable option for developing those properties out there, or developing that property that's owned by STU, St. Dunstan's University Board of Governors. So can we try to get some information back, Madam Chair, for the next meeting, which I think Amber said is September 4th?
Yeah.
So that we can start moving in this. This land has been, I think, is the last big parcel owned by SDU, Board of Governors. So if we can send them a clear message that, look, this road system, option 3 could work, I think we can get some development going on, hopefully will take place on the extension of Babineau Avenue into that developed property. So that, I just want to put that on as a notice of motion. The other notice of motion, Madam Chair, is that we have 41 signalized intersections in Charlottetown. I know there's an intersection right here at the corner of Kent and Queen, and it doesn't have the sensors to tell the system that there's no one in the left turn. I don't know if you know that. So if I'm going south on Queen, when I get to this intersection, right out here, Queen and Kent, right here, the corner.
You'll get the arrow to turn left or go
And-
straight.
But the arrow turns left, but there may be no one in the queue. So I know there are other intersections like that we should put those sensors in, that if there's no one in the queue, that light doesn't go on, that it does allow traffic to continue to go east-west or north-south. So I just wanted to make sure you took that on. And on another notice of motion, Madam Chair, because, we like the NOMs. This past year, I know it's been very hot, but our hanging planters, they've taken quite a beating. It's been a hard year. Well, just look across CADC, the Queen Street Parkade. They've been dead for 2 weeks. I guess no one can get up and water them. But if we can just look at that for next year's, plan of action for beautification, how do we take care of these hot, dry days and how it affects the beautification of our city? Thank you.
So I need someone to put a motion to adjourn. Moved by Councillor McAleer, second by Councillor Twill. Have a great day.